We're glad to have Don Ferrarese back with us, as always, and we're going to talk about baseball, of course, but we have a great announcement to make. Don Ferrarese, former Major League pitcher, is now at X number of years old. He's now back in Major League Baseball, right?
That's right, Dick.
Well, you dropped the other shoe, Don.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I got a phone call a couple of months ago from a fellow who's a head scout for the Kansas City Royals baseball team. And he said that we have a large area to cover in the desert, and my name was given to him as a potential scout. Would I be interested? I said, sure, just like a little kid in the candy store. So I went down and had a meeting with all the scouts, and I did sign a contract with Kansas City, yes.
Hot dog.
Part-time, however.
No money much.
Not much money, just for the love of the game.
Well, yeah. You say the love of the game. When a modern player says he loves the game, I wonder if he really does.
Well, you know, Dick, I go to a game maybe once or twice a year at a Major League game, and I come back away feeling that they don't enjoy the game as we used to. That's the feeling that I get, and it turns me off as an ex-pro. I would have paid, quite obviously, to play, but
sure.
It's a funny feeling. Maybe the money has gotten to them or whatever it is, but that incentive, that drive doesn't seem to be there.
They're incorporated. They got business managers, offices. Did you have a manager, officer, agent?
Oh, sure I had a manager. If I'd have brought a manager, I'd have been in podunk so fast they'd have never seen me again. In fact, it's cute. One of the last year that I played, the next to last year, I had done real well, and in fact, my earned run average is like the 12th best in the whole National League. And I asked for a $1,500 raise, and I'll tell you, they were just like pulling teeth to get it. And so my wife said, you know, well, gee, we got to get it. And they told me, said, you need one more year for your pension, and young man, you better come back for what we tell you. But I couldn't have an agent. There was no such thing in my time. No.
Well, we have to talk about the lockout, or the proposed lockout that's happening by the ownership. There's more of a conflict now, don't you agree, between the owners and the players' union than there was in your era?
Oh yeah, well there was no union in my era, of course, but the conflict now seems to be very, very strong. I mean, both sides are adamant about their position, and this lockout is a serious situation. What scares me is when are the fans going to suffer? They are suffering, and when will they turn off the game? And that's what scares me as a lover of baseball.
Basically, Don, and let's don't get too complicated for people who don't follow sports or who don't understand what this is all about. Basically, can you sum up the differences in opinion in this issue? Yeah,
well, I think the key, Dick, and I'm not in the middle of it, so it's just what I read in the newspapers, and I'm not that well informed, but it appears that the owners are trying to get away from arbitration. And the players want part of the revenue sharing. In other words, they want to share in the profits.
Sure.
And I don't know, if I was owning a business, whether it be a baseball team or a delicatessen or whatever, if I own the business, that's my profit. And if I'm willing to pay you $3 million, well, that's fine, but don't try to share in my profits. I don't know. The chemistry it's going to be a hard situation.
Do you see a delay in the season?
Oh, absolutely. The only thing that I heard today, that the owners are preparing some of the minor leaguers. Now, you remember the football strike 2 years ago?
Sure.
They brought in minor league football players just to get those players motivated, the ones that are out, to say, hey, I better get back in there because someone's going to take my job. And I think the owners are probably going to, we'll have to look for this in the papers, but it makes sense. Because
Sure.
there's a lot of good ball players in the minor leagues. So
it'd be interesting to see what happens. Your comments on the change in the attitude of owners and players over the years is interesting. If you got a baseball, we got a little time left. You've got a baseball story for us today that you can use on television?
That I can use on television. Well, let me see. We've got a baseball story of, do I have a few minutes?
A couple of 3 minutes.
A couple, three. All right, I'll go real quick. I was in a bookstore in Palm Springs, and I was reading through baseball's greatest events. And there was Willie Mays home runs and Sandy Koufax pitching perfect games. And in that chapter was baseball's longest month, and it was the Philadelphia Phillies' 23-game losing streak, which set a National League record. I said, hey, looky here, I was part of that. So I'm looking through and I'm thumbing through, and it says the first game was Orlando Cepeda of the San Francisco Giants. He had a grand slam home run off of Don Ferrarese. I started that losing streak, and I didn't find out till about 25 years later. So that's my claim to fame. It's not it's not a fancy story. There is more to it, but the big thing that the Baltimore Orioles almost broke it a couple of years ago, and I was hoping they wouldn't do it because at least I'm part of infamy. I may not be famous, but I'm infamous.
Well, those people who I've talked to who have been around, and you were a good pitcher.
Well, I hope so.
You were a good pitcher and had a long career.
15 years. I didn't accomplish what I would like to have, Dick, in all honesty. But the fact that I'm proud of is I was a major league pitcher before there was expansion. There were only 150 men in the world who were major league pitchers, and I was one of them. I may have been the 150th, but at least I was one of them.
No, you were a
I
good
certainly
pitcher.
was. It's cute. I see people, they say, gee, I hear you were a major league pitcher, left-hander. I said, yes. Were you Sandy Koufax? I said, no, not quite.
Not quite.
Not quite.
Don, good to have you on the show anytime and talk about baseball.
Well, thanks for asking.
And,
Nice to
I
be
hope you're wrong about the season starting late.
Well, I think the fans deserve better, and let's hope they can settle it because I hope the players don't get too greedy.
Thank you, Don.